Science, so many state, has been a great destroyer of myth and superstition. But over time, scientists have created new black boxes, also known as a photo or film camera, which we are filling with our ghostly imaginations. What also may surprise you is that the scientific icons like Newton, Boyle, Edison and Einstein and many others of similar standing took reports of those phenomena occurring beyond the scope of normal scientific understanding quite seriously. Theology, philosophy, mythology and even physics, when looking at Euclidean geometry, are offering surprising insights in the worlds of those spirits who are generally causing problems in a household. But just because a candle falls off your mantel does not mean you have a clumsy demon in your house. It doesn't even necessarily mean you have a poltergeist who has a crush on your new sneakers. Still, even though many believe in the existence of ghosts, spirits, demons and angels, there is still a lot of confusion over what exactly is lurking in these dim and elusive realms. Some say it's a spirit, a ghost, or even a demon that is throwing things around in your home. Others say it's only the manifestation of a person's psychokinetic energy, or PK activity, that is acting out. I am your host, Maria Anna van Giel, and you are listening to The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. And this week, I'm welcoming back the co-founder and team medium of Paranormal Research York from the United Kingdom, Kevin Spindle, and talk with him about what it is that is dwelling beyond our peripheral vision. An extra or interdimensional entity like that of a poltergeist or alien after all? Kevin, welcome back to the show of The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. First of all, a happy new year, Kevin. 2020, that was a crazy year for Paranormal Research York, wasn't it?
Happy New Year to you as well, Maria, and all your listeners. Hope it's a better one than 2020, because yes, that was I'm of an age where I've seen lots of decades go past, but that was certainly one of the craziest years I've ever witnessed. So yeah, and for Paranormal Research York, it was a year that we sort of got off to a really, really good start. We had lots of things going for us, and suddenly, when the first lockdown started in March, everything just ground to a halt. There was a lot of uncertainty, and it was very disjointed because people didn't actually know what was needed and what the rules were, and yet people were still trying to survive in business. And we are a business. We have bills the same as everybody else has bills to pay. We get our funding from our public events, and we weren't able to do public events.
But how did you experience this in I mean, your investigations? I mean, was there a more form of activity when these lockdowns in 2020 started, and then in November? I mean, I can imagine that all that kind of energy releasing from fear and from stress and from anxiety, that this could be a possible trigger for ghostly activities to rise, to emerge more than normally speaking when there is no lockdown and stressy fear.
Yes, I think one of the things that we do, we help people if they've got problems at home. And we had lots of calls about that as well, when people were in isolation and suddenly spending lots of time in their homes. They wanted to know whether they were alone or not. And
Yeah.
we were able to do some work over the phones and sort of allay people's fears. But I think what you were saying is certainly a factor, that people, because of their heightened senses and heightened emotions, focused elsewhere, suddenly every little thing it sort of becomes noticeable. And it's like a dripping tap. Once you notice a dripping tap, you can't turn it off, and it's there all the time until you get it fixed.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that is a form of a new house effect, that people are locked down in their homes, or spending more time at home, that they suddenly start to hear those noises they normally do not hear because they are at work?
Yeah,
And
I think
that is a cause, or a possible cause for ghostly activities to rise or to be more noticed. Kevin, I hope this is still recording at this moment. There's always something what is going on? And then again, my connection is gone. How is this possible? Kevin, are you still there? I hope so. I think even my computer has a lockdown at this moment. I have no idea what happened there.
no idea.
And it is every time, normally when I'm talking about aliens and UFO encounters with people, like with Nick Pope, for instance, with Dr. Chet Shostak from SETI, when I talk about aliens, this is happening. This has never happened when I'm talking about ghostly activities and corona lockdowns and etc. So this is a new thingy with one of my podcasts happening, that the connection is gone. But to rephrase, to bring back the question is, in a nutshell, I was asking about the new house effect, if that is a plausible idea or a plausible cause for people to notice ghostly activities more, the noises, etc., that they are not used to because they are at work in that moment, in the daytime.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of that, but I also think as well, because in the paranormal world, the publicity has heightened over the last 5-10 years. And there's lots of people now doing TV programs, there's lots of people doing YouTubes, there's lots of groups on Facebook like we are, and things like that. Yes. And you get this whole community of people now who are paranormal investigators in their own little niche, but they bring a lot of people around that who look in, and it's, if you look in the box and you get a little bit heightened about the activity that goes on, and when you see the people on YouTube and on the Facebook and on TV reacting, screaming to little bangs and little cracks, then suddenly it happens in your own home. It's almost like, I'm haunted. And I've got a ghost, I've got a poltergeist, I've got this, I've got that. And it's just the noises, as you say, they wouldn't normally hear. Because the other thing with lockdown as well, particularly where we live here, it's very quiet. The traffic as well, that you would normally get, like the aircraft, the trains, there was very little of that, so it was more silence. And particularly if you were reading or researching or working, you've got these little cracks and little... Suddenly you think
yes, because it's more, like you said, more quieter, so you are more, your attention is it's getting more brought to your attention. I can imagine that. Hey, I was looking at at the background for our listeners the last time in our podcast. I believe but I'm not quite sure if that was, because it is a while ago, that you were talking about your guitar that
Oh yes.
played a couple of notes. Now,
Yes.
our listeners cannot see you, but I can. And I see in the back, I see that same guitar standing there.
Yeah.
Did it play any notes afterwards?
No, but
Nothing anymore.
you can walk past it and it doesn't do anything.
No.
But literally, it's just went like that. Not as strong as that, but just as if something had strummed its finger across the guitar.
What do you think that it caused it? What triggered that? Is there somebody that you know of that is musical, or is perhaps maybe that a mouse was just touching the strings of the guitar?
We have a cat and we have a dog, so we don't have any problems with mice or anything else.
Okay, well that is out of the question then. No mice.
No mice, no birds, nothing. Claire and I were both sat on the sofa just over there, and then we were just talking, and it just strummed on its own. It's never done it since. You know, we've looked into it. We tried to research. We tried to make a connection, and we got so much coming through, because a lot of people, I guess, when they do paranormal research, don't like to do it on the front door. They don't like to do it in their house in case something happens. Well, we're the opposite. We actually, you know, we will do experiments all of the time around the table where I'm sat now.
Yeah.
And we will call spirits in. So it's when we get them in, we encourage them to talk to us, and we encourage them to react, and we want to try different experiments with them. And sometimes they are quite cooperative, and sometimes they're not. But sometimes I think that maybe with the guitar situation, maybe it was just a case of, well, you're here, come and talk to us. So.
Well, that is a plausible, that is a good idea of what probably happened. But you are saying that you had conducted an experiment at the same table you are sitting at right now. Do you think that it's possible? As I shared in the intro, some people think that it is psychokinetic energy coming from people. While you are conducting this experiment in that same room you are sitting right now, it could be that your anxiety, a positive stressy moment has caused this. Do you think that is possible?
You're right, and I think that's what makes paranormal research so fascinating, is because, as you said in your intro, there is no definitive area that pinpoints the paranormal. It's such a wide field. It goes beyond human hearing and human senses that we know of. And although there's been a lot of interest over the years through history with famous scientists having a dabble with what we call the dark arts or the paranormal, nobody's actually sort of sat down and done positive research on it. We're a member of the Society for the Psychical Research.
Yes, yes.
And we sort of take part in their webinars, and that's sort of very good at bringing things down to earth and maybe other areas of research. But I think that it's a very difficult one to sort of draw together, because when we do conducting our experiments, we like to use traditional methods as well as scientific, like the meters and things. And we don't always have the range, because we can feel cold as a team medium. If you feel like a spirit coming closer, you do feel a bit cold on one side. And Claire can feel that as well. But if you point a temperature gauge, or even if it's a very fine temperature gauge, it doesn't really make much difference. That's the same with we use a millimeter. Have you heard of the millimeter? You know that one?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, that measures the EMF range, but a bit more accurately than the K2 meters. And we were out in York a couple of weeks ago doing a video just before Guy Fawkes Night. We have Guy Fawkes Night in the UK, and there's a sort of indirect link between Guy Fawkes and a lady who was martyred on the bridge, Margaret Clitheroe. Margaret Clitheroe is one of the English martyrs, and during the Reformation, when Henry VIII anglicised the Catholic Church, because the Pope wouldn't let him divorce his wife. He wouldn't let him remarry again. So he created his own religion, the Church of England. And because that didn't go down very well, particularly in York, where we have the Minster, which was Catholic before then. Margaret Clitheroe was one of the ones who was hiding priests. And when she got found out, they killed her on the bridge, put a sharp stone underneath her back, put her own front door on top of her, and then just loaded boulders on until she collapsed. Her nephews were the Wright brothers, and they used to go to school with Guy Fawkes. And the statements say that Guy Fawkes was on the bridge when that happened. And that was maybe one of the reasons he was anti-Protestant. But we went out on there and we were in down the Shambles, which is a very old part of York. It's a very touristy part. And there was only us in the street. And we had a girl who was from another organisation. She does tours around the walks around the city. And we give her the millimeter to carry. And normally you can carry it around for a long time, and it doesn't go above 0.1 up to 1 on the megagauss scale. And you think that's nothing, but in the Shambles it went up to 7.6, and it was still fluctuating quite high. And we were trying to work out what it was, because it can be affected by electrical interference. There's nothing under the street because the cobble streets have been there since the 1600s. There was nothing overhead. We stood in the middle, and this reading kept following us round. So if we went 3 steps to this side, it followed us. If we went to this side, it followed us. But when we moved away, it just went back down to 0 again. When we went back and checked it again, because we went and checked about 2 or 3 times, there was no definitive spikes in certain areas. It was fluctuating between 7.6 and down to 3.5. And if it was electrical, or if it was some other Wi-Fi or radio signal booster on one of the shops, that would have been more static. It would have been a more balanced reading across, and it wasn't, and we couldn't get that balanced reading. So we put that down to that might have been some activity there, and we're going to go back and investigate it again.
May I ask? Okay, now I see it. I was going to ask from who or what is making those stumbling noises, but I think it's your son that was passing through the through the camera. Okay,
nothing ghostly.
So, but that is an investigation that you have conducted outside.
Yeah.
But before you said by means of the Corona lockdowns, hopefully we are not going to experience another one, but time will tell. But then you say by means of the Corona lockdowns, you are with your team more inside the homes of people, because people are starting to noticing all kinds of noises around their own homes, which they haven't heard before, or at least was not brought to their attention. So how does your team visiting these people, your clients, how is your team differ from other paranormal investigators who are also being invited in somebody's home?
Yeah, I must clarify though, Maria, that we don't do house visits during lockdown. We just do telephone calls. We're not allowed to go into people's houses. Mm-hmm. So outside of that, we've been asked to go around to places where people have been. They've called teams in, and they've got no reaction. How are we different? I think possibly because I was taught I'm on the website as a medium, but I call myself a light worker, which is slightly different. It's a light worker is somebody who generally, instead of contacts the dead and talks to them, a light worker is somebody who helps them cross back over. So that I put myself in that category. So when it comes to doing houses, I've had quite a lot of training with my teacher, who sadly passed last year, and she taught me for 9 years on
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, it's fine. she wanted to go back. She was happy to go back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was us. It was sad that she did go, but yeah, and she taught me for a number of years on how to do it, and we do it differently. I think when a lot of teams go in, they go in with the prospect of finding a haunting, so that they'll take the equipment in. They'll be intrusive. They set up cameras everywhere. They set up computers. They set up meters. They put trigger objects out. They get Ouija boards out. And if you're somebody who's experiencing that in your home, to have a team come in and take over your home and set up like some kind of scientific research, then it can be quite unnerving for some people. Some people actually like it, but very few people do.
People can get overwhelmed by all the things that they see.
Yeah, because when you see it on TV, it's very different. It's very controlled. But when you see it in your own home, and we've had people who phoned us up and said, look, we've had a paranormal team in. They came to help us deal with this apparition or this ghost or whatever, this poltergeist activity, and when they've left, it's got worse, and that's not what you want. It's not.
No, absolutely not.
You want to solve problems, not increase them.
Yeah, correct.
And I think that's, you've got to be a little bit more respectful when you go into people's houses.
I think that, but it's my personal opinion. When I listen to you, when an investigating group is setting up all these kind of things, that it is immediately speaking to somebody's imagination, to somebody's mind, which is also then in turn creating a kind of fear, because we see this on television, we hear this on radio shows or read articles about, for instance, a Ouija board. It is demonic. When somebody sets that up, instantly we think about demons and shadows, etc. And I think, we should be very, very careful when we do that. Especially, of course, paranormal investigating groups do not set these things up without any warning that you are going to do that, because you are making people extremely afraid. And that is rising those, it's creating the problem even.
Yeah. Can I tell you a story about the house that we've done in York? Is that okay for let you know about?
Yes. That? Do you mean that that you sent via Facebook to me? That's
no, that's a different one.
Okay.
We had a call from we had an email from somebody who didn't speak very good English. They were from the Muslim faith, and they contacted us and said they had a problem with the house and would we go around. So we went round to the house, and it was a big house, but there was 2 families living in the house. And we went in, and we sat down, and I asked the guy, I said, well, what problems have you experienced? And he said there was things being moved, and they were unsure. It wasn't a family. They'd worked it out. It wasn't a family at all. Nobody else had been in the house. And the Muslim religion doesn't believe in ghosts. So they were very...
No? I always have thought that the Muslim belief system has, for instance, a jinn.
The jinns, yes, but they don't believe in people. It tends to be spirits rather than...
Okay.
So, yeah. So they were very unsure. So they had the imam come round, and he looked at the house, and he said, just play the Quran music and it'll go. Okay. So they played the Quran music constantly, and it got worse.
Oh.
And it's so
that's not a good sign.
No. So they called a priest out, a Catholic priest, because they were unsure of what to do. And they thought, well, if it's in England, we might get a Catholic priest. And he came round and he said a few prayers and dipped some holy water and sprayed that around, and it got worse. And the tipping. They called the priest out again, because he said, if it doesn't go, let me know. And he came back out again, and he again went round the house with holy water, and he said, that's the best I can do. He said, I can't do anything else now. And then within a week of that, the mother had gone upstairs with laundry and was put it in the room, came back out, and the laundry was on the floor with all of the cushions off the sofas.
Oh God.
And they were just piled high in the middle of the floor like a pyramid.
Oh.
So
that's more like poltergeist activity.
It's more like poltergeist, but they were very panicky about that, and obviously they were a bit scared and very reluctant to get anybody else in. So when we went round, the first thing you got to do is to try and appease them a little bit and calm them down and let them know that we can help. They did tell us that they were renting this house, and as soon as I walked in, there was a woman on the stairs and there was a gentleman by the door, and they were very angry.
Oh.
These are in spirit. These are spirit people.
Yes.
And it turns out that these two families rent the house off the son who used to live there, and that was his parents' house, and his parents are very racist.
Oh, okay. That is the first time that I hear that those from the afterworld or the hereafter have racist emotions and also acting that out in our dimension. That is really the first time that I have ever heard this.
We've never come across that before, but in my ear when I'm walking around, he's saying they can't live here, they need to get out. I'm not having those in my house, and you've got to explain to the spirits then that actually it's not your house anymore. Your time has passed. Yes. So what we do is we use our training and we move these people across, and then we do a relation what we find, and talk to the people and make sure, because one thing that people ask me a lot is, if you pass them over, how do you know for certain that they can't come back? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, I can only say about what the people who I work with on that side, they tell me they can't come back. So once they go through that door, there's no way they can come back. And
now you are mentioned, it is completely different. I lived in Africa for almost 3 years, and I was driving. They call it a bakkie, but it is a big truck. Okay. So I was driving a red bakkie. And I was passing by a football field, and there were a lot of people gathering around, and in the middle there was a man laying there in a white t-shirt. And instantly I knew, okay, this man is dead. It wasn't surprising anyway, not a surprising emotion for me. And then I saw, because you just said people walk through the door, this man literally stood up from his body and walked through a door. He was opening it, and he walked through it. One time he looked back to the people who were standing around his body, and then he walked through, and the door slowly faded, and boom, everything was gone. So I think that there's a very good point that you are saying, and right in the moment that people are walking literally through that door and close it behind them, they cannot come back.
Yeah. But if they don't walk through the door, then they're stuck.
And that is what happened with the Muslim families. The two families were living in that home, having, I'm sorry to say so, but I really never heard that before, racist, ghostly activity.
Yeah.
That is really, that is new for me.
It was new
how did it end? How did the whole story end? Did they come back, those two parents, those two, that man and the spirit woman?
No, we normally follow up every investigation we do like that, and every house clearance we do, we follow it up with a couple of phone calls, one within a week and one within a month. Yeah. And if we need to go back, we will always go back. But after the first week, they said that they were surprised how calm the house felt, and there was no more incidents after that. So,
I think that is a good thing that you are doing, that you are calling them back, your clients back, so that they know that they are not forgotten, that they are not left alone with their creepy problems and etc. There is always somebody who is checking up on them. I think that is a feeling of secure.
Yeah, and we don't charge for that either. That's a free service that we do, because I was never trained to do that for money. So I know a lot of people go out there and charge lots of money for doing that type of thing. But we've always stuck to our principles that that's what we do. We will help people, and we help the spirit as well.
Now, Kevin, following Paranormal Research York via Facebook, for instance, one can clearly see that the team has been quite busy last year with public investigations, ghost huntings, events, private investigations, and clearing spirit activity. But I saw, and if I'm recalling it correctly, I thought that I saw a photo whereby Paranormal Research York was visiting a radio station. Was that for an investigation, or do you think, or is the team thinking about having their own radio program?
We get asked lots of times for interviews. York is the most haunted city in Europe, and some say the world. Because of that, and because we only work in York, we don't go around the country doing any work. We work within the Yorkshire area. So we've been going now just over 2 years, and our name is getting out there, so people actually start to know us now. So if something spooky does happen, then they will get in touch with me. We were down there for a radio interview, so we've done a few radio interviews now, and documentaries and television. We've had cameras following us around. We've had lots of different things happening.
And when is that going to be broadcasted?
It's already been broadcast. It was broadcast last year on the BBC. So yeah.
Which date? So I can look it up.
March the 12th. March the 12th, because it was before, just before lockdown, before the first lockdown. We were doing an interview for an event coming up at the Grand Opera House, which was really good because we had in the Grand Opera House, there was only us there, and we were it was a public event, and it was this massive theatre that used to be a corn mill, but the theatre has the rig workers, which do the ropes and the backdrops and things like that, and they communicate with whistles and little single syllable shouts that's not noticeable when a play's going on, and we had lots of them, and they were actually responding to whistles that we were giving out. There was nobody else in the theatre, which was really a really cool thing to have. And then it finished off with about 6 or 7 very clumpy footsteps going across the stage that had the member of staff rushing behind the stage to see if there's anybody there, because we were on the Friday the 13th into the
also.
Yeah, it was Friday the 13th, and we pushed it a little bit further because we had 13 guests as well, so we wanted to sort of.
You are playing with faith over there. Friday the 13th with 13 people. Don't tell me that your radio interview was 13 minutes.
No, it wasn't. No, but it's just part of the experimentation. We want to push boundaries. We want to be able to.
You were taunting the spirits. No,
we don't. We don't taunt and we don't provoke. We manage. Yeah, the footsteps on the stage were really good because everybody in the theatre heard them, and because it was there was a production going on at the time, which was called Ghost Stories, which was why it was linked to the theatre. We were not allowed to go behind stage, so the member of staff got quite panicky, thinking that a member of our team or a member of our group had strayed behind there, and they hadn't. They were all accounted for. So yeah, it was something that. It was really good. That's a nice experience to have.
You think you will go back someday to that place?
Yes. I mean, we were going to go back in October last year, but lockdown prevailed and we weren't able to do that. But we did an event over October for Halloween. We were in a small hall which has been there since the 1600s, 1650, I think. And it was where the priests used to practice the choir, the choral singing before going to the minster. And we were all in the room, and we were doing a little shout out. So we were all in this room, and there's a big heavy wooden door with a big metal rod, that's a latch on it that keeps it locked. And suddenly the latch went up and then back down again, and the lady who was a member of staff from the building, she went out. The door was locked. There was nobody in the building again.
I would go scream. I scream. And I would run out of the building with my hands in the air, screaming like, "Ghost, ghost, ghost!" I'm not going to get back in there. I think. I'm not quite sure, but I think I will go do that when I experience something like that a hatch or a door or a window is opening by itself, that there is nobody there. Especially when you're alone, that is the most creepiest thing that I can think of.
No, yeah. So, the creepiest thing is that little video clip I sent you, which is from the Fairfield Manor Hotel.
Yeah. That is the clip, the short clip. I believe it was 37 seconds from that man standing in that. Well, I thought it was a short library room.
It is. It's a library. Yeah. The library used to be the office. It's a hotel now. And it's been a country home, it's been a stud, and it's been a lunatic asylum. So all three, and now it's a hotel, and it's a conference room in a hotel. And the guy had been part of a family, and he'd come to the event, and we were using the planchette, and we don't put our hands on the planchette. His family all had the hands on the planchette, and it was moving quite actively. And he wasn't convinced, so he wanted to go back in the room by himself.
Yes.
We said, yes, you can do that. That's not a problem. We have a member of staff who waits outside, like a member of the team. They'll wait outside to make sure nothing goes wrong. Yeah. He had his phone on and he's walking around the library, and he says, I don't believe in ghosts. I want you to move something. And as soon as he says it, the planchette moves on the table, and he shows you on the clip. His arms are too far away to.
Yeah, I saw that. He was saying like, "Can you see my hand? This is way too far for me to reach and move." And you also said, "I'm sorry for the language used." But did you know that in certain countries, I believe it's China or Japan, that when they are on ghost investigations and they think or see encounter ghostly activities, they start to swear and to yell, cursing like, well, as the devil would have little red ears when they curse. And they believe, their belief system is that as soon as you start cursing really loud, you will scare off the negative ghostly activities, the negative energies and the demonic forces. So when you say, I'm sorry for the language used, I find it normal, because this is what we do. We don't want to be attacked. There's something that is invisible that we cannot fight back.
But he left there a believer, which is great.
I can believe that he is a believer right now. There's no skepticism anymore. When you're talking about your investigations, Kevin, you once mentioned to me that you wanted to try out a theremin. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah.
So have you ever done so, and how did it went?
We built it. Good. We got a theremin is the first ever electrical musical instrument that was built, and it was, I think its most famous use is the theme tune to Star Trek.
Okay.
And it is an upright bar, a bar off a tangent, and if you move your hand anywhere between those frequencies in the middle, it makes a noise, and if you can do it properly, you can make music. We can't make music, but we can make a noise.
A couple of noises.
So the idea was, if we put it on a table in a corner of a room, or if we put it somewhere where we know there's no interference, that if we get a noise, then it's something to investigate. It's something to draw our attention to. So that's what we use it as, rather than definitive proof that it is a spirit touching it or making a noise. It is just something to draw our attention to that area, and it's been good. It's worked. It's had a couple of experiences. We've had it going in the house, and we had it going on a couple of our own investigations. We haven't used it in a public one yet. But yeah, but the other thing we use as well, which we've just started using, is we have a fish tank which we turn upside down. Well, I think I've talked to you about this before.
Yes.
Because we had a pendulum that was behind a window, and it was responding to yes and no questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to you about it and how we would negotiate the research, and we said, well, yeah, if it was one pendulum, maybe it could be affected by vibrations, or it could be affected by noises or different energies that we weren't.
The vibrations of the glass, for instance.
Yeah. So we had a talk about that, and we thought, well, how would we overcome that? And we said, well, we could do two. Then we could do two pendulums. And then we thought, well, why not just go ahead and do the three, and we can have a yes, no, and don't know. And we attach them to the fish tank, and we turn the fish tank upside down, and we put it on the table, and we don't touch the table. We ask questions, and it's had some good results. It's worked. Yeah, it's interesting.
You say three pendulums. According to holy writings, using the number 3 is mocking Jesus.
Yeah.
And I correct or not?
It's not something I'm aware of. I don't prescribe to religion, because I think it's a man-made concept, and spirits sort of. My experience of spirits show that they don't believe in religion either. So
you don't think that 3 knocks on the door is a demonic force mocking Jesus, or mocking Christianity, or any faith that is being done by a demonic force? It's not a mocking. You don't think so?
I don't. I mean, I've never sort of come across the mocking of the 3. That's not something and it's certainly not something that we set out to do. We set out to do it because it was a yes, no, and don't know, and that was as simple as that. I think a lot of reference to demons and demonic activity has been heightened in the last few years because of the paranormal world, and people want it to be demonic because that is a higher and stronger energy. And I think there's a lot of ego sometimes where people want to say that they've had dealings with demons and want to be praised for that, and I faced a demon and come and lived type of thing. But I think going back as far as The Exorcist, really, it's in my lifetime anyway, that's probably the thing that turned everybody's heads towards demons, but it's probably a wrong phrase from that film.
That is the most creepiest film I have ever watched. I was still a teenager, and I watched that movie for the very first time with a classmate of mine. And for about, I think, 3-4 weeks, I was so tremendously scared to get into my bed at night that I jumped about a meter or something in front of my bed, hoping that there was nothing underneath it, and I was always terrified that my bed was going to shake, and etc., that there is something creepy. And that was a very creepy film to watch for the very first time as a youngster like me at that age. But you say people find it more easy to believe in demonic forces instead of believing in the more positive and light energies that are also roaming our dimension or crossing our dimension. I think that's better than that. Is that the goal of paranormal research, Jörg?
I think we want to do our own research, and we need funds to do that. We get our funds by doing our public events, and that helps us buy equipment. It helps us set up experiments. It helps us get into buildings that we want to investigate on our own. We want to try get some way of finding definitive proof that something that works time and time and time again, not just once or 1 in 100 or 1 in 10, but a better percentage of that. And it's never going to be easy, and it's never going to be straightforward, but it's fun trying. And it's something that we all like to be involved with as well, and we all like to generate our own ideas on what we think will happen and what we could try and generate to make happen as well. And we've got a wonderful guy in the team who was called David, who's comes up with some fantastic experiments with traditional things, using traditional sensors, and he's very good with his hands. So he makes all our wooden equipment and our pendulums and things like that, and make sure that they're weighted properly and that there's nothing going to put them off. And he's very critical. He's very critical in terms of what the results will be. And I think that's one thing that we have in our team, that we don't have a team of people who jump onto every sound and think.
No,
Yes,
you need somebody who is more skeptic or a full skeptic, so that everything can be balanced, to say so.
But we, as a team, with the 7 in the team, and we tend to all be very balanced in terms of the activity we get, and we're not screamers either. We don't run out of events screaming. And
I would, I would kill your team if I was there. I would scream at every knock and creak that I hear.
Well, I mean, we've had to be there to calm people down at events and things like that. But,
do you think that Paranormal Research York, the team, is going to grow in 2021?
I think it depends certainly on the COVID situation, but what we've done during 2020, when it has been a stop-start year for many businesses, we've sat down and refocused, and we've continued, instead of just sitting there and doing nothing. We've contacted the businesses and the places that we want to be in, and we've approached them with business solutions. We want to host public events. They need a supplementary income when they haven't got people coming in. So we're trying to marry that together and get a win-win situation for us, and it's working quite well. We've got lots of negotiations with some really good places, and the thing that we want to do, we don't just want to go into a place and do a one-off experiment or a one-off event, because what if that place is really, really good? We want to be able to go in there and have many little projects around where we can say, well, this worked really well, but was there something in there that caused this? Is that affected by traffic outside? Is it affected by, is it got tunnels underneath it, vibrations or something like that? Because if you have a tunnel underneath a building or a cellar underneath a building, if there's traffic going past that can amplify the vibration and give you false readings. And when you go into a building for a one-off event, by the time you've done the risk assessments and you've done the public event, you don't really get time to get into that building and get to know it. And that's what we want to do as a team. That's what we want. That's what we're about, I think, is we want to be sure that what we post on our pages and our websites is good quality investigation. We'll never fake anything. We don't want to be famous in terms of TV shows and things like that. We just want to be able to say, oh, look at this, we've caught something. This is really good, and we're enjoying sharing that. It's very difficult, because once you put something out there, there'll be, it's very difficult when you're not part of that, you're not in the same room, to say, yes, it could have been fish and wires, it could have been this, it could have been the other. We know it's not. Our guests know it's not.
I find it very amusing and exciting when I keep mentioning Ghost Adventures, because I'm a big fan of Ghost Adventures, and I find that very satisfying to look at, and there's a little thrill in there, and there's a little, you get that moment that you said, oh my god, probably maybe this time, and so a little bit of playing to the public. I don't think it's I think you can do that every now and then.
I think at events we have to be able to, we have to be a little bit not theatrical, but we have to be personable, and we have to appeal to the people, and we have to be secure and safe. So for people like you who would come in and run out if something happened, we have to be the guardians of that barrier between the living world and the spirit world. So, it's very difficult on how to gauge that. But it's worked so far, and it's getting better. We always have really good reviews from our guests when they come. But the other thing you were talking about aliens earlier on, and that's one of my things. It's one of my sort of questions that I have all of the time is we think primarily that we talk about paranormal as being ghosts and spirits, but what if there's aliens mixed among them as well? And how do you then decipher that?
What if an alien, as we have become familiar with, is coming from the universe, but what if an alien is exactly the same as ghostly activities, only like everybody else on this globe, walking the Earth's surface, has a different color of skin, has a different language to speak, looks different colors of eyes, etc., etc., and that alien species doesn't necessarily have to come from the universe, but just are walking this planet in a different kind of realm we haven't met, explored, or proven yet to be existing. But it's just all the same. Maybe it's facts. I don't know. Of course, there's no proof.
And that's the beauty of it, that we don't know. But it only needs to be in a dimension that we don't see, the fourth dimension, and what is in there, what lie in the peripheral vision of everybody. These little black shadows that go past, they give you a glimpse that something's there, but isn't, and it is never enough. And that's the thing when you getting that little video clip that I sent you earlier today is gold as far as paranormal is concerned, because we didn't take that, a guest took it. And the guest was there by himself, and he was a skeptic. He didn't want it to work, and his reaction on the video tells you that he was scared. It shook him up.
It was legit.
Sorry?
It was legit.
Yeah. And he sort of, for a paranormal team, that evidence is really gold, and we get a lot at our events, our public events. We don't have cameras everywhere in our public events, but a lot of the things that we get, like the footsteps on the stage, like the door latch opening, are things that you hear, but by the time you get to try and find out and disprove that there was no physical evidence, nobody was there, the moment is gone. And it's exciting, but you just don't capture it. And I found in my experience of working with spirit, it's very difficult to capture whatever they do. They always just do it just as the camera turns off, or just as the recorder turns off, or just. It's very annoying.
My own paranormal investigations in the past, and that is so annoying. You are waiting, and then you say, okay, nothing is going to happen, click, and then it's going to happen. Yeah. Why is that? Come on. Don't play games with the living. So, I think, Kevin, the paranormal investigators still have so much to conduct and so much ground to cover until we have, even if it is a little bit of proof that we can say, okay, there is something that we cannot see with the naked eye. But I'm seeing that the hour is almost over. So, Kevin, I'm thanking you for coming back on the Next Truth radio show, on the podcast. But before we close out, can you tell us again where we can find more information on Paranormal Research York, UK? What probably for this year, 2021, new events are coming up, maybe, and for people to contact you when they have questions for you.
Okay, thank you. I mean, thank you again for having us. It's fantastic to come on and talk to you. It's always interesting, and you ask such interesting questions. It's always much more of a conversation than an interview, and I really enjoy it. But you can find us on our website at www.paranormalresearchyork.co.uk. If anybody has a question, we are at paranormalresearchyork@hotmail.com. And we have Facebook page, which you don't have to join, which is Paranormal Research York Ghost Hunting Events. And we have our group, which is Paranormal Research York. And we're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, the usual social media places. But we're always open for questions. We have a lot of good events coming up in 2021. If you're ever in York, or if anybody's ever in York and wants to find out, they can look at our website or the Visit York website as well. We publish on there. But we're always doing something. And if there are any paranormal investigators who are coming to York and we haven't got an event on, they can still contact us, because we would definitely go out and do something with them as a private thing, or just take them somewhere. Or
if Corona is allowing us, I think that many people are going to visit York and perhaps meet you as a paranormal investigation. Kevin, thank you again for being on the Next Truth podcast. Maybe I will see you in York one time.
I hope so. You will definitely be made welcome.
Thank you all for tuning in this week on The Next Truth, where science and myth meet. Make sure to visit our website, www.nexttruth.com. That is nexttruth, all in one word.com. And let us know what you think about our podcast. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we would appreciate a rating on our website in the section The Next Truth Podcast. Or if you would simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us too. I am Maria Anna van Driel with The Next Truth. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.